Alright, I'm Checkers and welcome to my garage. Today we're going to be working on my klr650. I'm going to be swapping out this rear tire here, and I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm not saying this is the right way, so I do. So, first thing I've got it, I just use some boards underneath the kickstand, and then I put a jack stand underneath my swing arm there, so that my rear tire is off the ground. Now, the next thing I do is I pull off the rear caliper. That just makes it sliding the new tire in and on and off much easier. So now, what we're gonna do, well, you're also gonna have to pull your cotter pin out, and then just loosen off your castle nut. Those aside. Don't use a regular hammer to hit on this because you'll deform the threads. So, a block of wood, rubber mallet, whatever. Get it moving. And then on the other side, you should be able to just start pulling on it. Wiggle it, and it'll come out. Now this is where two hands is nice, because once you get the axle out of the right side, it's going to want to pivot. So I'm going to see if I can do it one-handed. And it's looking like no, so I'll set you down. Alright, so we got that axle pulled out, and now our tire's free. Well, the easiest thing I do is I just push the tire ahead a little bit. Now my chain goes slack, and just slip it over here. And I kind of use the adjuster bolt to hold it from flopping all over the place. Now your tire will just come off. Now, if you're doing this to change the tire on the rim, you're going to have to take care of that now. However, I've got a spare rim, which I already have my new tire mounted on. Bring that over here. And now I just swap over my sprocket carrier and my isolator, or my dampener, more correctly. And just get that pushed back into the different rim. Then you're going to have your inner space. You can have two spacers on your sprocket carrier. The one with the flange on it, that goes on the inside of it. And you have another one, that shaped, on the outside, where the small section slides into your sprocket carrier bearing. And that will just fit in there like that. And on the other side, on the disc side, you got this little spacer. Which you just pop into your slots right into the bearing on that side. Now, a new tire is ready to slide back in. And once you get it over here, you have to make sure that this stays up pretty snug, because your distance between here and here is the exact width of these spacers from left to right. So then when you try to slide it in there, if everything's not seated quite right, you won't be able to slide it in there, and you won't ever get it all lined up. So I'm going to set you back down again, and I'm going to slide it in there and then push my axle back through. I need two hands for that. And we'll go from there. Alright, so I got my chain back on. So I had slid the rim forward, flopped the chain back onto the sprocket, and then pulled it back to the right position so I could put my axle through. Which you got coming back out over here. Now when you do this, your tensioners only ever pull back. They can never push. So if you're not going to adjust your tensioners, you have to make sure that you push your tire as far forward. Make sure these tensioners are lined up, because if that's what they can do, is they can back off and turn a little bit, and then they'll hold it out too far. So once you make sure that they're lined up, I usually just give it a couple kicks forward, get it back in there, or at least close for now. So now we can bring our washer and our castle nut back on. Now, I'm just going to put a little tension on that and then do the same thing. I'm going to kick it forward, and now I've got some tension on it so it won't slide back if it had been at all. Now I can start to tighten this down. Now I always like to spin the rim as I'm doing this, because if I had got something wrong, like I had forgotten a spacer or did something wrong with the carrier, that's going to tell me now, because as I tighten it, this should get tight, but this should stay loose. If your rim doesn't spin as you tighten that, something has not been aligned or something went wrong. And now, as far as swapping your rim, you're basically done. You just got to take this to your final torque spec, line up your hole, and then throw your cotter pin back in, and you're done. Now you got your new rim on your KLR. Alright, so I already forgot something. I didn't show you guys to put the rear caliper back on. However, that's just the same 2 bolts that you pulled out there. Then just slide it on from the back. Make sure that your disc ends up between the pads, because if it doesn't, that doesn't work very well. Don't ask me how I know. And then you end up ruining your caliper, and then you gotta buy a new one, which isn't fun. But then, so after I normally change a rear tire, I'll give it a spin, and then just press on it with my hand as it's still spinning, and then that'll check, make sure everything's at least pretty sure that it's all right. I actually just I redid the seals in this while I had the tire off, so now I've got to go through and bleed my rear brakes and get it all working again before it'll actually do anything. You won't normally have that problem, but alrighty, and that is all I've got for showing you how to change out, to take off and put back on your rear tire.